Hello everyone, Brian here, and today I've got a game of Domination for You on Jungle. This is a very old game, but as usual, I'm not going to talk about the gameplay at all. I realize it's been a week or so since I last told you guys a story, and I know many of you tell me that you like my stories a lot, so I figured let me tell one that I've been thinking about for a little while now. As you saw in the title of this video, it's called A Fifth of Captain Morgan, an ex-girlfriend and her best friend. What could possibly go wrong? I'll start out by giving you guys a little bit of background first. From the time I was around 17 up until I was 21, we had a pretty large circle of friends. My handful of best friends all had friends and everything else. And there was always a party going on every Friday and Saturday night somewhere. And a lot of these parties used to take place at our friend Dave's house, who was a year younger than we were. When we were seniors in high school, he was a junior. But he had an older brother that was a few years older than him. And as the saying always goes in larger families, the younger siblings always have it a little bit easier because whoever the firstborn was has already broken the parents down and broken them in and prepared them for whatever the younger siblings ever could get into. The older sibling by that point has already done the partying, the staying out all night, missing curfews, getting into trouble at school, possibly even having the cops bring them home a time or two. So, like I said, by then the parents have gotten broken in and they know what to expect from their kids. So the younger sibling normally has a little bit easier, gets a little bit more freedom than the first one did, and it just continues on down the line. So by the time my friend Dave and all of us were, of that party age, like I said, we were around 18, 17 years old and going forward from there, his parents were very laid back, and at that point, like I said, they were pretty cool about everything, and they would let us have parties there pretty much every weekend if we wanted to. And also, his other best friend and our friend as well, Fred, used to live right across the street, and his parents were divorced, and his father was an avid fisherman and would go on regular fishing trips every single weekend and leave him home alone. So you can pretty much guess what happened then. We would party at both houses at the same time. And I don't know what originally got me started or where this idea in my head came from. I think I maybe had a taste of Captain Morgan a couple weeks earlier, or whatever the case may have been, but I decided that was going to be my drink of choice for this party and this evening, and I bought a fifth of Captain Morgan, which, as you guys may or may not know, is a decent sized bottle, which normally Captain Morgan is mixed with Captain and Coke. There's only mixed variations of it. There's not very many people ever that even just do shots of Captain Morgan, at least not that I'm aware of. I'm pretty much just a straight beer guy now. But I had the thought in my head that I was just going to drink this entire bottle of Captain Morgan right from the bottle for the duration of the evening. And I proceeded to do so. The bottle, for the most part, never left my hand the entire night. Back then, whenever I didn't have a girlfriend, I was always really good at working the party scene as far as meeting girls go. Not too many parties and weekends went by that I didn't end up meeting and hooking up with somebody. Whether or not I ever ended up seeing them again or dating them was always up in the air. Many times it was just a one and done event. But this party was a little bit different. It took place shortly after I broke up with a girlfriend of mine. I don't remember if it was a couple weeks after we broke up. It couldn't have been much more than a month at the most after I had broken up with her. My memory's a little bit fuzzy on how long this girl and I were together. I want to say it was around the 3 to 6 month time frame at the most. Probably closer to 3 months if my memory serves me at all. This girl was mentioned in one of my earlier videos. It was the time I told the story of when I cheated on my girlfriend. This was the older sister that I had dated of the girl that I ended up cheating with. And like I said, this was around, anywhere from 2 weeks to a month after we split up. And like I said, I was walking around this party the entire night with this bottle of Captain Morgan, going back and forth between our two friends' houses, just mingling, talking to everyone and hanging out with friends and trying to see what other girls were around that I may be interested in for that night. But as I'm sure many of you can guess or speculate by now, with my plan in place to drink this entire bottle of Captain Morgan rum straight from the bottle, I became pretty damn drunk over the course of the evening, and towards the end of the night I was getting pretty damn sloppy, to the point that I ended up in the rear corner of my friend Dave's backyard on my hands and knees, puking my guts up. And obviously a few of my friends had wondered where I disappeared to, because like I said, it was pretty dark in his backyard and not many people knew I was back there heaving my guts up. But my ex-girlfriend did come and find me in the corner of the backyard, and much to her credit, she was really nice about it, considering the fact that I had just broken up with her, and she did try her best to take care of me. And she was being really, really sweet to me, which when I look back at it now, I do feel pretty bad about how I treated her as this night progressed. She could obviously see how drunk and sick I was. There was really no big mystery about that whatsoever. But once I had stopped throwing up for a moment or two, she got down on the ground with me and just had me lay back and put my head on her lap. And she was rubbing my head a little bit to try to make me feel better. And like I said, I don't know if she still had leftover feelings for me or was trying to get back together with me or was just basically just being really sweet about it, you know, considering the, you know, brief history that we just had. But she was talking about, you know, I don't really know why I'm doing this, you know, we just broke up. And even despite the fact that I was so sick and so drunk, I was still talking a little bit of shit. I was saying, you know, oh, it's because, you know, you still care about me and blah, blah, blah. Like I said, I was being pretty much a little bit of a dick about it, like I said, to be completely honest. And after maybe about 10 or 15 minutes of sitting back there with her and talking shit, as disgusting as this may sound, we did end up making out, even though I had just thrown up. And like I said, I was pretty much in a drunken stupor, and I had the idea that I wanted to keep partying and just keep going. So I pretty much just, you know, eventually pushed her off from me a little bit and stood up and started to stagger my way out of the backyard. And I was going to go over to our friend's house across the street. Now, as I made my way out of my friend's backyard, I went through the side gate, and right about at that point, I ran into her best friend, who was, I guess, on her way back there. I don't know if she heard what was going on or whatever the case may be. But for some reason, I decided to just stop, grab her, and I started kissing her as well. And after a moment or two of that, I pushed her off of me as well, and I continued on my way over to our friend's house. And by the time I got over there, I was staggering the whole way. I don't even know how I made it across the street. I could barely walk at this point. I pretty much just walked over to their couch and collapsed on my back and just laid there, and some of my friends had at this point come over and obviously were making fun of me and laughing at me for the state that I was in. And that was pretty much par for the course. You pick on the drunk friend or whoever is in the worst condition for the evening. Now, I'm not really sure how much time had passed while I was laying on my friend's couch, but obviously these two girls being best friends and both heading towards the same backyard, they bumped into each other pretty quickly, and they spoke, compared notes, and told each other what I had just done with each of them. And needless to say, neither one of them were too happy about my actions and how I treated them on this evening. So they proceeded to find out where I was and came over to me while I was laying on my friend's couch. And like I said, I at this point could barely even move. I couldn't sit up even if I wanted to. I probably borderline had alcohol poisoning. I mean, who knows? I mean, I was just totally trashed. Now, these two girls were obviously really pissed at me, so they began yelling at me, berating me, and just giving me a really hard time. And needless to say, they weren't getting very much of a response out of me either. So I don't know if they just gave up yelling at me or if they just realized the ridiculous of the situation. But they decided it would probably be more fun just to screw with me instead. Because there wasn't much they could do in the condition I was in, because I had no clue what was going on. But they had the idea, like I said, to screw with me a little bit. And I had my feet up over the, I guess, the arm of the sofa. So the two of them then proceeded to light my shoelaces of my sneakers on fire. I mean, not that this was causing any kind of big flame or anything like that. But like I said, I was trying to get up. I just started calling for my friends to get some help here, because who knows what they were going to do to me next. But I guess, you know, they gave up, and my friends came over and just said to stop screwing with me and stop messing with me. I was really in no condition for it. Now, as you can expect, the ex-girlfriend pretty much didn't like me very much after this evening, and she pretty much grew to hate my guts a few years later after she found out that I also slept with her younger sister. But surprisingly enough, after this party, her best friend really started to like me. Every time we would run into each other at another party, she would be all over me and just follow me around, just trying to put the full court press on me to, you know, start dating her and going out with her. Pretty much I never wanted to have anything to do with her when I was sober, but whenever we were at a party and I got a few drinks into me, I became much more open and receptive to all of her advances. And by the end of these nights, we could always be found just hooking up and making out and just going at each other. And sure enough, the next day or the following day, she would always end up stopping by my house, trying to continue what we had just started from the night before. and talking to me and hoping to maybe get me to start dating her on a more regular basis other than when we were just at these parties hooking up. But for some reason, I just never really was interested. I really am at a loss to explain it even to this day. I mean, she was a nice girl, and obviously we had some chemistry and there was some heat between us back then. But her and I just never actually turned that corner of actually starting to date. We just continued that same pattern of hooking up at parties off and on, probably for 2 or 3 months, if not longer. And that's pretty much the end of my story for today. If you guys would be so kind as to leave me a rating before you leave, I really would appreciate it. And as always, guys, I hope you really did enjoy the video. I will talk to all of you soon, and I hope you have a good one.